Alright, Shabes, and welcome to another edition of AniTube Digest, where we go over the best and not so best anime YouTube videos to come out this week from the 7th of September to the 13th of September. I have a standing desk now, so I'm trying to find a new orientation for Digest. I still have to use boxes to put my stand up, but it's okay. It's fine. But we'll see how long if I can stand for an hour talking about these videos. And anyway, there's some videos that I thought were decent. I didn't hate anything that I watched this time. I'm also noticing I could really shake the table when I... Fair. Guess I can't do that. Maybe I'll just use more of my hands or something. But this first one's from Puff to Pirate. How One Piece depicts masculinity. And it's a pretty comfy One Piece, reading analysis. It's mostly manga. There's no anime clips, which is cool and fine. I think they display their preferences pretty well here. I wanted to mention just because, the subject matter was kind of interesting to me, but also I wanted to talk briefly with not briefly, kind of the thing I wanted to talk about with this video is the editing in this and the kind of what he's doing here. I really liked the color coding the sections in the different things that you're talking about. Putting them in different colors I think was a good idea to separate them, although that separation of sections and pacing of the video didn't necessarily reflect in the music. It just kind of felt like the music was kind of coming in and out whenever based on how long the song is, and it's that's fair, but there is ways to try to find ways to kind of discreetly lengthen the song if you need it to stretch for a particular period of time. There's ways that you can kind of find ways to loop it and orchestrate it in that way so that it kind of matches that pace, because otherwise it was wait, are we on to a different section? And to me it just is kind of weird as someone who really pays attention to that sort of stuff. And speaking of the music, I would say that there was something about the levels it seemed a little high in the mix compared to your voice. That's such a tough balance to find, and every song is kind of different. Some of them are really low key, so you kind of have to boost them up a little bit, and there's others that are just a lot's going on, like the Pirates of the Caribbean theme you have going on here. Actually, that particular theme, I thought that was decently mixed in your voice, I thought, but there's other moments, specifically the first song I think that you used. It felt like you had to talk at a party and you're giving them this One Piece analysis video and there's this big this party going on. It kind of felt like that. I think that's an aesthetic, that's a choice, but it was a little more difficult to follow what you're saying, and it was just distracting in that way. But I think that the real cool thing with this was it feels more like a general One Piece and talking about it and analyzing the characters and stuff, and how I like that you didn't have the author so much in your mouth. You didn't go Oda 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 a lot of the time. There's some YouTubers when they really talk about the author as this omnipotent character and everything. I'm not saying that Oda, there's other people besides Oda, but it's just I feel like it can get in the way of the analysis in my opinion. So I just like how you phrased a lot of this stuff, I think. At least maybe I'm wrong. I don't remember that's a particular peeve of mine that I've developed over the years, that I've noticed, but I don't remember that being a thing here, which was nice. There was I also liked this rant that you had towards the end, and I liked it because it was sort of different, and you isolated it into a particular thing, and it wasn't a recurring thing to the whole video that gets kind of tedious or something. Although the way you present that rant, I get the idea of having to rush through it, but there's something you did with the audio. Yes, it's compressed, and so not compressed, but it's not stretched. It's the opposite. It's crunched together, so it's sped up. You speed up your dialogue, and so it makes your voice higher, and that's comedic. But it has this weird pitchy. It was some weird threshold. I don't know the word for it. It was just this consistent sound, and it was really hard to hear exactly what you were saying in that. I get you wanted to kind of keep that aside, but you had to say it anyway, and there's a comedic way of presenting that. but it ended up being like this kind of rock in the video where I'm like, okay, that's a, I don't know what that is. Like it didn't register for me. It was a moment that I obviously remember, and I'm mentioning it in the video in talking about it, but like I didn't take anything away from it one way or the other. It was just like that's a 2 minute thing that happened, or maybe it was 1 minute. I don't remember how long it was, but it seemed it wasn't like a small thing. It was like kind of went off, and that's cool. Again, I like that sort of thing, and also that you isolated it towards the end of the video. But it was just like, okay, it's kind of a weird, abrasive way of presenting it, in my opinion. Um, you know, with Digest, I never really have a lot to say with the substance and agreeing. I haven't actually seen or read One Piece yet. I'm looking forward to. I've consumed enough through as osmosis that I was able to follow pretty much everything in this video. And you do. I will say you spoiled a good deal of it, but like spoilers in the way that's like obvious. Like, yeah, of course he's gonna beat this character, or this is gonna or like I figured as much based on their position in the story, right? Like that One Piece can be kind of predictable like that. Not in a Definitely not in a bad way. I'm not trying to say that. I'm not trying to criticize One Piece for something I haven't even read or seen. But it just seems like from a lay person experiencing as much as I have through osmosis with people telling me about it, seeing other media about it, seeing it on Twitter or whatever, there's aspects to it that's like, oh, that's so classic Shonen Jump, you know? So it's like, oh, anyway, that's just what I was saying about that. There was a flash after I watched this video, reading the title again. I was like, does it really, like, do you really have a great, like, masculinity, I guess? Like, I think you really went into aspects of masculinity, but I don't know how holistic it ended up being. Although, like, I think this analysis is great and sound, at least from what I can tell. I haven't read it or seen it. Like, I think if someone who has read it and seen it and has analyzed it, like if Kraftsdorf watched this, I was actually watching this video thinking about Kraftsdorf, like, I wonder how he would take it. Like, is this right? he's like, he's like, yeah, and I don't know who you would think. It was just interesting. It made me think about it. But yeah, I did dig dug this video. It was cool. You know, I was all right with this Professor Otaku video, Mecha 101, Introduction to Giant Robots, and is talking about the history of the robot, history of Mecha. Really went into just like, Tetsugen, Mazinger, Getter, Gundam, the 80s, real robots, and then really kind of had this very, around that time, I thought it was really amorphous. I really liked that he was using these titles as particular flagships to illustrate the direction Mecha was going. I think that's that was a good way to do it, but he really glosses over like the 90s and 2000s and doesn't even mention the 2010s. Really just like, nah, and kind of gives like he also says like, we refer to this era as, and then he gives this particular, I can't even remember what it is, because I was like, what? I've never heard that before. Who's we, my God? I just couldn't. And maybe we as in like you and your mutuals or something. I don't know. I was like, huh? Like, it was, I don't know. It was weird. I feel like you glossed over Eva a lot, because you mentioned it's kind of specifically like Eva and its clones, but it's like, and then later on, like as it was moving on into the 2000s, I was like, what about the Brave series? Like, yeah, it's just all toys and stuff, but that was kind of a significant moment in Mecha too. Like, I don't know. And when it says Mecha 101 introduction to giant robots, I wasn't going into this expecting a timeline. When it was, and then when it was, I was like, okay, that's a cool way to kind of introduce it. That's fair. That's fine. I think there were certainly some things that were like a little sketchy, and things that I think people could kind of pick apart if they were really into that. But the funny thing with the Puff to Pirates video, he mentions this aspect of One Piece where like it introduces it early on, but there's some battles that there's really no point in like going after the guy. You don't have to go after every single person. Like the over hostility of it. I think it was just really interesting that he met like from that video. But like this one, I was just like, you know, I could just really go in and try to, but I don't care. It's fine. But I like the structure. I just think it kind of fell apart towards the end, especially when you don't even really give any mention to mecha as it stands today, which I don't know. Maybe you have an opinion about it. Like you seem to be a lot more cynical towards the 2000. Like he's like you. It was interesting. You were a very neutral lecturer. I call lecturer because the format of this video, not the like structure of the video itself, but like the way you present it, you act as a actual professor, which like I'm pretty sure this is at least the first video that I've seen from you that actually uses that professor otaku, and he's like, this is a 101 class, and you're talking like an actual professor, like a college person, and addressing like actual like students or something. And I thought that was a cool framing device. That's what I was thinking of the term framing device. I actually kind of liked that. And you ended on similar thing where it's like a class dismissed and stuff, and I'm like, that's kind of neat. And I like that actually. And I feel like you can kind of continue that actually. The other stuff where you're very editorial is what really reminded me of Movie Bob, which I think I've mentioned before. I probably have. There's something about that cadence and the spontaneity deliverance of it, I guess. There's just something about it that reminds me of him. But this is more of a very distinct framing device, which I think was interesting. So I was pretty okay with the video. Again, I think that the last third, it kind of just gets kind of, but it was good. I enjoyed it. Anime Visor's back after a couple copyright strikes things. One of the Stranger Lupin the Third anime, Lupin the Third Return of Pykel review. Yeah, Pykel is one of my least favorite Lupin. The ones I was just like, this is garbage. But I really like that Visor had a very clear-headed and general perspective on it. It was like, this is certainly a weirder one with like the effects and the plot and stuff like that. And it was like, that's bizarre. Like I appreciate the restraint. Personally, it was certainly refreshing in that regard. And yeah, I think I've mentioned it before, but like his dynamic that he has with this AI kind of automated voice character, and he's bouncing off of, and it's like him telling this AI about this anime instead of like addressing an audience directly. It feels like he's talking to them, and they're like, really, what happens? And there's like an actual kind of dialogue. I really like that. It's not like extreme through the whole video, although I would like to see more of it actually, because that's sort of a thing that you don't see like a lot of YouTube. It's a very every man's an island. I guess no man's an island is the phrase, is the figure of speech. No, but it feels like with YouTube, a lot of the time we are making these videos individually, and it's only when we have very direct collaborations is when there's anything like that. But like even if it isn't actually, like it's just like not even a real person. At least I'm assuming it's not. I'm assuming it's. I'd be very. It's like that's a real person. No, I was like, what? That'd be a surprise to me. I would be even more interested. I actually think that the back and forth sort of thing is a very distinctive, unique thing that not a lot of anime YouTube actually does. So I think you could lean into it even more personally if you can find ways to do that. I think it really sets you apart, actually. No, but like I appreciate the restraint. I guess maybe it wasn't actual restraint, and he's just like, no, it's just kind of an interesting, kind of weird loop on. And like, wow. So it was kind of refreshing in that way for me. A little long tooth. I think there's a little parts of you kind of repeating yourself, and go a little too into detail in some other place for a generalized review. There's 2 reviews that I also have on Digest later on. Animebackwhen and BobSamurai had other reviews as well, and they were like 3 minutes shorter. I feel like you could be in that same range too, where it's just really quick, no fluff. Again, the dynamic you have with the AI, I think, is really great, and you can lean into that even more. I was like, let's check out this kind of cool anime I saw recently. I was like, I can't get over like how bad this show was or something, And it was like, really, what happened? And then this dialogue is actually kind of interesting to me. But I think if you made it even shorter, I think like, because like 7 is kind of in a weird. It's not quite long. It's not too short. It's I don't know if it really warranted 7 minutes personally. I think you could make like shave something and really make it succinct, and making it like 5 minutes or less. I think it could actually like real. I don't know. I think that could make it better, basically. No, but I dug it. It was pretty cool. Good to see. Good seeing you back. Yeah, I did watch all 42 minutes of Mother's Basement's The Cult That Makes Anime. Largely, I'm sorry for people who made videos and I'm not talking about them, but like, this is one of the weeks where I had to go back, scroll all the way back down to a week ago and like really go through my timeline again. I'm like, okay, what actually came out? What can I scrounge together? And I made it. It's a good offering this time, I think. But no, it was the things where it was like, it's 42 minutes. Like, okay, fine. The reason I wasn't as enthused to I wasn't as enthused to watch this one is because it's a topic I'm kind of already familiar with. Like, Mike Toole has made several panels about about happy science. But I guess it's cool. Sure. I'll see what Jeff wants to say about it. And it's part one because he's going to go over all 9 movies, like major feature films that they've done. And yeah, he goes into detail for the first three, and he really describes them in very intricate detail. It reminded me a lot of Saberspark, actually. I feel like maybe Saberspark's already talked about this series, or one of them or something. It just feels like the exact kind of thing he would talk about. But it's very of Jeff to be very detailed in his explanation and going plot point by plot point as if he's basically giving you the cliff notes of these 3 movies, which is why it takes kind of so long. But he did 3 hours worth, according to him. So it's like, yeah, fair, I guess. It just felt very long-winded in that way. I kind of would have preferred something that's a lot more tight-packed. It could have been maybe 50 minutes, but you go over all 9 movies. I actually think this would make it even better. Maybe that's not great for YouTube or something. I'm not a great YouTuber in that way. But, like, I think going over all of them in, like, a fourth or fifth of the detail that he does in this video with these 3 films, if you get like a vague idea of like, this one's about the time travel, it's like fucking Kingdom Hearts, they go all at different points, do you really have to explain each and every location that they go to and like kind of make a little riff or joke about that, I don't know how necessary that was. I mean, I guess it's fair because it's like some of us are never ever going to be curious enough to actually watch these ourselves. So it's like Nostalgia Critic. It really is like he goes plot beat by plot beat riffing on it. It is pretty much Nostalgia Critic's thing. Interestingly, and granted, I'm not like, that's not a diss or anything. I've watched a lot of Nostalgia Critic stuff. I'm still subscribed. I don't watch as much of his stuff, but but it was kind of like that. I feel like he could have been more succinct, I think. But kind of the thing that's of note, I think, which was good, is you can tell he's pissed. Or he just like has this sort of righteous anger about him. And I think if he talked about any other anime like this, I feel like it would have been kind of uncomfortable for me, and I wouldn't have enjoyed it, because me, I'm not really into talking negatively about a lot of these anime. I do appreciate that he does give credit to how beautiful the first 2 anime look. Like, the first 2 films actually look really nice with good art direction and animation and stuff. But it's kind of a half-hearted account, because he's like, yeah, they must have paid him a lot of money to make whatever. No, but obviously he has this kind of righteous anger because it's kind of this scam religion cult thing. And he really makes that a point often, and it's like really kind of directs it back of how much of a fraud they actually are and stuff like that. That sort of like energy, I think, was really addictive, especially in the first 10 minutes, I would say. It was when he was really going in. But then he kind of just gets lost into just explaining the plot of the movie. And I feel like it's just kind of like, it's not awful, but I think for some people it could probably be like kind of a drag. It is what it is. But I think that sort of righteous anger, if it was just a little bit like moving through each movie a lot quicker and more like getting an idea of how crazy each one is and how substantially crazy each one becomes, I guess, I think it could have been a better video. But you know, as it is, it's cool. It's kind of what I was expecting of Jeff, and it's I'm happy he's talking about it. So it was decent, as it be. Checked out Eva Monkey on the future of Evangelion, and I've been subscribed to him, especially since with like 4.0 he's just got a lot more activity. Usually he just has these long stretches of not having anything because, you know, not Eva's his only thing, and that's cool. I actually really respect channels that have that. There's that one channel that's only dedicated to Kimba the White Lion. That's kind of cool. It's rare for that personally, and you can do a lot with Eva, of course. So he's got a lot of good analysis, and he's been very close and intimate with the series. But, you know, he's talking about not just the future of Evangelion, but also Tsurumaki and Hideaki Anno and their future journeys and things like that, and sourcing a lot of stuff that he's saying, of course. You know, I think being very, like, level-headed about this. He's not being, like... He has his own personal, like, what he wants to see out of the future, because his whole thing is that, like, it's so much of a money maker. There's no way there's not going to be more Evangelion, but like he's kind of leaning into the idea that like Anno had said he's like, I'm done. I'm not making any more. I'm stepping away. That doesn't mean you don't have like they can elaborate on kind of the universe or the around it and some other aspects and things like that. And I don't know how I'd feel about it, but sure. I mean, yeah, but I think that bringing up that perspective is interesting, and some potential, like he's describing some of the stuff that they could go into it and kind of predicting some stuff. I think it's a fun video in that way. But he's a sharp guy, and you know, again, the sourcing of a lot of stuff and the dedication he has to this particular franchise that doesn't feel very overly fanatic. It's something I also do appreciate about his videos. Is he always, again, they feel very level-headed and just like not trying to be like Evangelion. Not very intense, which I appreciate. It's very newcomer friendly. Not like I'm like a newcomer to Ava or something. It's more like if you haven't experienced this channel before, right? And so that way you can go into it, because when it says Eva Monkey, you can be like, okay, let's do this, you know, not like clowning on the name or anything. I'm just more like, you know, thinking of the reputation that Evangelion has, and then seeing this, it was just like, it's actually really refreshing. And it's like, I want to hear your opinion about these things. Because, like, you know, there's some people who have very strong opinions about Evangelion. So that sort of thing is just like, I really appreciate about his stuff. Yeah, it was good. And Oceaniz had a quick kind of a surprise video. More Hero Acca, of course. Not to clown on you, my guy. I'm just saying. I mean, you know. If you know, you know. Volume extras in My Hero Academia are so much fun. A quick video about the small things that you find in the volume extras, basically like the physical copies of the My Hero Academia manga that aren't in like the digital editions, or you might not have seen if you just kind of read it chapter by chapter illegally. You know, some plot relevant stuff, which is interesting, some Easter egg and like background details, and he's describing a lot of different aspects. He's like, I'm choosing Hero Academia. Not just because it's my thing. It's because it actually has like a fair variety of volume of what volume extras can be, which I appreciate. And I think it was just kind of a cool aspect and something cool to show. And I liked it. It was. I don't have much else to say about it. You can tell it's just like very not trying to push any boundaries. I saw that clip you posted recently of what you can do with the VTube tech with like animating Aizawa's mouth and like maybe do something with that. I do like about his content is that it is constantly trying to kind of push himself and evolve and stuff. I'm using stuff a lot, I think. Maybe that's, I don't know. But this is more like, again, the kind of videos that I'm trying to make right now, where it's more like just getting an idea out there that's neat, and it's about the idea, not necessarily the execution of it. Not that the execution's poor in this, it's just like obviously very streamlined. It's like, that's great, that's cool. A jailbreak, and also something about a Monopoly. Mailbag Showdown from Glass Reflection. It's just a discussion video, and I don't know why he had to label it under the Mailbag Showdown thing when I'm pretty sure he doesn't address any he doesn't have any mailbag entries in this. It's just his thoughts and opinions about JoJo Part 6 releasing monthly on Netflix. Blue Period, is that the name of it? Blue Period, yeah. That seasonal is also coming out kind of in a irregular way. not like their usual way where they're kind of waiting a bunch and then dropping all of it. Reflecting on that as glass reflection on that, as well as talking about Crunchyroll and Funimation's merger with Sony and the whole news with Verve and High Dive leaving Verve and stuff, and his thoughts about it. It's kind of a umbrella general topic thing, and he's very thoughtful about these sorts of things and level-headed again. Not like someone who's very conspiratorial or I don't know, rush, but like he's not rushing this sort of thing. Yeah, it's just thoughtful thoughts. I enjoyed hearing his perspective. I don't have too much else to say about it. Of course, it is what it is. It's pretty cool. I was happy to hear that. Yeah, nice. Okay. Now, what I thought were the best videos of the week, the ones that I thought were the best videos of the week. I feel like I don't use my arms as much when I'm just like standing. I don't actually use my. I was like, I liked it. Maybe I don't use my. It's because like I have my elbows on the chair sometimes. I don't know. Maybe that's why. Forget it. Now I'm using my arms a lot. This first one's from animebackwhen. Anime Balls Deep. Hayao Miyazaki's first anime. Clickbait. It's like, oh no, it's actually not it. It's like you're pretty quick to let go of the to like it's his first. Not really. You're kind of quick to the draw with that. You're back to the shorter videos, which I really like. I really do think that the succinctness and not like going so super in depth and everything like that. I think this is more your speed personally. Not that I dislike your longer videos, but I feel like when I finish them, I don't have having much to say about them. I don't know what it is. I just because I saw your like Sherlock Holmes one. And I was like, I enjoy these. And then I have it on the list for digest things to talk about. And there's this inevitable culling I sometimes do where it's like, do I really have anything to say about this? Or do I really want to? Not really. And I'm like, I feel bad, but you know, it happens. But like this one, I really liked because I like the personal anecdote in here. I saw that you improved the intro. Just like, you know, it's a different intro. And I'm like, yeah, not to reopen that wound. Of people mentioning it, but I just had something I noticed. No, and I think, yeah, you really like just like smitten and really like this movie. I like that you don't really go super in depth with the plot or its backstory. This has this whole, you mention it briefly, but it's not something you dwell on, which I appreciated. Not that it's like, oh, I don't know, it just feels very typical, I think, of a lot. It's just something with like reviews. I really just want the person's perspective on how they liked the thing, and not trying to introduce me to this new thing unless it's like something that literally no one's heard of, right? Not that Panda Panda is like completely completely mainstream or something. It's still it's in that the big gray area of like people who are deep enough who are going to watch this video have probably heard of it. Right, but it's not like mainstream that like you can't ask a person on the street if they've seen this thing, which is the majority of anime, I would say. It's a big gray area, is what I'm saying. No, but yeah, I don't know what I was saying with that. I just like that it was very straight to the point, succinct. Again, I really like the length of it. I'm just smitten with these kinds of videos. Maybe because when I do digest, they're very easy to watch, and I could just like watch it instead of like seeing something that has 30, 20 on it. I'm just like, all right, like watch the whole thing. Is what it is. Now I enjoy this speed personally. Again, not that I don't like your other stuff when it's longer. I think maybe if it was, you know what it is, I think it's just more of it. I feel like your other videos, they just feel like more of your kind of style where you're describing it and having the personal thoughts and observations and the way you describe these shows. I really like that. It's just more of it in like 30, you know, it doesn't feel like it warrants its length in the same way. Whereas if you were talking about a very particular topic, not that I'm saying you should make like a generic censorship in anime video or something like that. I mean, like if you have a point to say that's like a little different or broader stuff, you take as much time as you need to talk about that, and you can be as thorough as you want. But if you're just talking about one anime, you could go on for an hour, and how valuable is it compared an hour to 5 minutes or something? Unless it's like Gurren Lagann or something like that. an anime that like a lot of people have already seen, and that you're trying to present them with new information. I don't know. It's something to think about, I guess. Yeah, but I really like this this sort of length. It just feels just right. This is too short. This is too long. This is just right. I don't know. It's nice. And yeah, speaking of it, BobSamurai Reviews, why you must see Makia Promised Flower Blooms. Oh my gosh, just like the quantity and speed that Bob is putting out right now, it topples like anybody right now. Like nobody is this quick. But like it's not even just that, like, because it's one thing, like he's doing a meme half of it basically, and he's not even fucking trying. It feels like it's not like he's not making a big deal out of this. He really is doing like 5 reviews a week, like a number of them, and sometimes he misses like whatever, and like, but like understandably so, because it just feels he's on this grind, dude. It's incredible, and I'm not watching every single one of them. Just I don't know, it is what it is. It's just like, oh, it's another, it doesn't feel like it loses its specialness. Was like, oh, Bob uploaded kind of thing, compared to his other stuff. But like I would say this is just like kind of a different cool thing. I just really immensely respect as a content creator too. Just seems like another one, and it's because they're relatively short. They're 4 minutes, but that's great because he's not trying to be like, he's not making it elaborate, right? He's not trying to make the definitive review, because there's so many people that are making reviews of this, of whatever. But now that it was like, it's funny that now that it's like so oversaturated, it, like very few people are actually doing this sort of review thing, in the same way. So now he's just kind of filling this gap now, because everyone's like, oh, reviews aren't it. Reviews are tired or whatever. And now he's just like, okay, let me just do a review for fucking every anime ever. That's what it fucking feels like. Like, I mean, when you see spoiler-free anime review 271, I believe he's including all of his previous reviews that he's done over the 10 years he's been doing YouTube or something. Yeah, I think 10 years. He's 2009, I think. But he's including all of his previous stuff in that, so like that's where the big number. But I swear, he's put out like 50. He's put out something like an insane number of reviews over the last 2 months. Like, it's just kind of crazy. Like he really started around 3 months ago. No, let's see. But it's like Bob's server was firing up, which is 4 weeks ago. Yeah, but he had already done like around here. I'm just looking at his. Oh my gosh. It was like he'd been doing like kind of some spoiler reviews and stuff, and they were like a lot longer. But around the Moriarty one, yeah, or I guess the Princess and the Pilot one was also like 7 minutes. But he's just been shortening them even more. This one's just 2 minutes. This was just 2 minutes. And then this was like, it was a month ago. He's at review 230, and now he's at 271. Or right now, yeah, I'm reviewing his latest ones. They're 271. That's 41 reviews in a month. Are you kidding me? Like, that's insane, dude. I really like the new banner too. I really dug that. I'm just like, fucking bravo on the output of this, dude. And I'm only gonna be like, I don't want to talk about his stuff every week or whatever, because like I think it'd be justified. Well, let me talk about this particular review with Makia, whatever. I don't know maybe I just avoided videos about this, or maybe not many people actually made videos about it. Or I don't know. I think all I did was like watching trailers and like knowing it was Mario Kata, but people would not I don't know if I just didn't look into it, but this is feels like the first time I'm actually learning about what Maki is about from this review, which was really funny. And I just think it's very succinct. I really like he's just like gives you a fair deal of like kind of backstory and stuff, like setting up the movie, like the premise and stuff. And then he kind of describes vaguely, because yeah, it's a spoiler-free anime review, and he's just describing kind of like, there's some feels in this, and describing it in a very articulate, eloquent way. It's also that it's not even that like he's just recording these and whatever, or like it's all face cam. It is like a mix of face cam and of vlog style and actually editing with video. I will say that in this review, I did notice that there's a couple of redundant clips. Like he, uses the same clip 2 or 3 times or something, but like it didn't really matter. I actually didn't mind it as a viewer. Like that would be something like as a video maker, I'm insane. I'm like, oh, no, you know, like I couldn't stand that personally. Um, but that's not like, you know, he's just getting it out there, I think, and he's just like the efficiency of this is just so remarkable and admirable to me. Um, yeah, I just really it's so sick. And I think he, you know, fairly articulate. And I feel like I actually understood the whole movie, not like the whole movie. I shouldn't say that. I'm not gonna say this is the definitive Machia video or something like that, but it is to an extent of like it gave me exactly what I wanted, and it didn't feel scant for 4. Like people would like, oh, 4 minutes. It sounds kind of scant, but it isn't. It actually seems really fairly thought and just really well done. Obviously from somebody who has been doing a lot of these. And I'll also say that like he just put this YouTube post out where he lists all of the reviews he did in the past month, and that was one of the I had already knew that he was doing a lot, but like seeing the list of how much there was, I was like, holy shit. I was like the sheer quantity. But he also lists the score in that post of like how many 8 out of 10, 7 out of 10s, and 6 out of 10s, and 9 out of 10s. He didn't give anything a 10 out of 10 this month, I don't think. But he gave a couple 9s, couple 8s, couple 7s, and like 2 6s. You know, so he's actually also being like fairly positive, and I consider that a positive too, because it's not like he's kind of wasting his time on trash. You know, he's not just like trash, 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 trash. Even stuff that like you look at the thumbnail and he's like, oh, he's probably gonna shit on this. He gives like a 6 or 7 out of 10. I'm like, wow. I don't know. I'm just there's something that's admirable about that to me. So this is great, and I really like these. I don't know why I haven't thus therefore binged all of them, to be honest with you. If I like them so much, I couldn't tell you. Again, I think it's because of that, like, oh, it's another review. It to me as as a subscriber, I guess I'm just like, oh, it's another one. Like I could, yeah, you know, if it's an anime I'm interested in, I'll watch it, sort of thing. But I don't know. There's just something weird about that. But that's okay. Like, you know, I think the trade-off for that, for the amount of quantity, is something that's really interesting, I think, and creates a really great backlog and a whole established like content of stuff that people can like retroactively binge through. I think it'd be pretty cool. Yeah, no, I dig it a lot. So I don't know if I've talked about any of his blind reviews from Totally Not Mark. This is just the thing that he does, man, and he has great audience and gets great it's also like pretty consistent too. Like he's a pretty consistent uploader and stuff. But looking at his channel and stuff, like he really went through all of One Piece, all of Dragon Ball, all of JoJo's, all of Hunter x Hunter, like and it's consistent, pretty great views, and like I got also Attack on Titan and stuff like that. I think I reviewed his Keijo one maybe, or maybe I didn't. I don't remember. No, I just really liked it. I'm really liking his stuff right now. And he's going through Berserk blind, and this does not feel like a blind. I will say that I liked the video, and I really like how polished it was. I really think the editor here is top notch. I feel like there might be different editors maybe, because this is edited by this person. I'm not sure if it's the same editor. Otherwise, like, how on earth are you putting out this many, like, this consistently, in my opinion? But, like, it's really well polished. But I would say especially his commentary on this is just really insightful and studied and measured, not super reactionary. Although, when you say it's a blind review or a newbie review, I'm kind of hoping for that, because I'm not anticipating that you know what's to come with this, and that's kind of the novelty of it. And what a lot of people like, kind of a hip thing that I've been noticing with anime YouTube is that like a lot of channels like Roger's Base or something are experiencing Naruto for the first time, and there was kind of an aesthetic to be like, what was their reaction to this thing? And then seeing there for the first time, it's like, I remember. It's kind of nostalgic in a way. But that's just not what you get here, and I think that's okay. It's just a difference in expectations, I guess. You don't get as much of this as like wow or anything like that, because it's not live. It's a post, like his reporting of his readings and stuff. But I don't know. This is something not as raw about it as you would expect from a blind review. But that said, he's very well read. I think very measured, appreciative of a lot of different aspects. He had this one moment that I was just kind of like, he's like, I don't talk as much about I because he talks about how he skimmed over a portion from his previous review. So he's talking about the second half of the Golden Age arc here. The video is called Berserk's Golden Age Broke Me, which is like, yeah, he's going to talk about the eclipse. But he actually skimmed over a section from his last half of the Golden Age where where he had that battle where Zod gives Guts the big sword or whatever, and he brings that back. He's like, actually, that was a really important moment, because he has a mention of how like, they are good. They're a feast for the eye. The big fight battle scenes, like he usually says he glosses over fight scenes because they are more of a feast for the eyes and not a feast for the mind. Which I can see where he's coming from, but it's a little disrespectful in my opinion, because there is an actual skill to, like, you can't just like gloss over the way that it's drawn and like the pacing of a fight or something like that. There is actual thematic skill to being entertaining, I think. You can't just kind of you can't just like, it just came off to me as him glossing over it and like, yeah, that's a fight. you know. And it's like, I like that they used this character and this character, but it's like, I don't know. Makes me kind of uncertain about his other reviews personally, if that's the kind of approach that he takes. But again, what we get instead is very thoughtful. Like, really seems to have a good understanding of the material for what there is. The one nugget that is reminiscent of a blind review, which I appreciated, was him talking about, he assumed that Casca dies during the eclipse, and he was like steeling himself, because obviously the Black Swordsman art at the beginning of Berserk prepares you for that sort of, to steel yourself, all your friends are gonna die, and he talks about that, like, it whittles you down, where it's like, oh no, I, like it or not, knowing that this is going to happen, I still care about these characters. And that's the artistry and the mastery that Kentaro Miura had when writing this. But like, he assumed that Casca was going to die, and he's like, I was surprised that wasn't the case. It's something far worse, and da 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 da. And I really liked that, because that was that blind perspective that I was hoping for, that I was excited to see. But again, I'm putting this in best just for how really well polished and thoughtful and substantive it is. I don't know if I would watch all of them, because it's redundant for material that I've already seen. And I also like that he mentions in this video, he's like, so I'm going to try with this Eclipse thing, but there's other people that have probably done this way better than me and have already done it. And like, he knows he's being redundant in making this kind of video. I appreciate that awareness, at least, even though it's like something that I would kind of hark on. It's like, oh, why do I have to talk about Berserk again when like there's these other titles that have never gotten a damn thing. Is what it is. Yeah, but I really enjoyed that. It was a good video. Bonsai Pop also had a good video on Dororo. Hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil. I really like the kind of the thematic tie, the bow tie they put at the end of this. I always appreciate that about their videos, is that they really, at the end of, they really try to make each video mean something and feel very cathartic and meaningful. You know, it's not just like, and that's my video on Dororo. It feels more like humanity and like, we should all strive to be this and that and sort of thing. Maybe it comes off a little preachy to some people, but like, I appreciate that. It just makes it feel more meaningful. That I've spent these 28 measly minutes on. No, I'm kidding. It's fun. Yeah, and I think the balance was really careful here. Like, talking about what do you talk about with Dororo? This is kind of a thorny. The manga is one thing, the 1969 anime is one thing, and the 2019 one is another thing. I think he was very good to be good and balanced in addressing all three of them, but clearly stated and also respecting them. I also really appreciate that there wasn't like a feeling of inferiority to the other two, even though he very clearly prefers the 2019 version and then kind of focuses on that from the halfway point onwards. But I think he makes that point very gently and not trying to crassly throw away the manga and anime as outdated or you know, old or something like that. But still, like, you know, keeping to his like yeah, I do want to mainly talk about 2019. I think that delicate balance was really well handled, and not like super bloated or intrusive. Yeah, I think it was a didn't feel so much like plot synopsis or anything. Again, it's just kind of like this generalized Dororo video. They have this really weird ability, I think, with all of their videos. I mean, I don't know if I've talked about it in their previous stuff, but I was noticing in this one, it doesn't feel like a review, but it doesn't feel like an analysis video, but it doesn't feel like it's just kind of like a Dororo video, right? Or a video on this. And it's just kind of a nice variety of stuff. It's part contextual, like historical stuff with their Rurouni Kenshin thing, or this broader thematic, like really strong thing with their Afro Samurai video. And when they have something to say about it, they don't resort to talking about it in super detail or whatever. I think they kind of just tailor it to each one. So it just makes it really like engaging and interesting. It's like, what are they gonna? Not only which anime are they going to talk about next, but like in what way are they going to talk about it? It's not predictable in that way, which is really remarkable. For something that like they clearly have a formula. There is some formula there that because it's hard to. They're not just making something completely different or original every single time. But at the same time, they kind of are. I don't know. There's just something like there's an invisible formula. I couldn't tell you what it is, but it just feels like there's a process of making, and then they find the thing, and then they tailor the anime based on that. What do they want to talk about? I don't know. It's fascinating. I like seeing their stuff. Not all that, I'm not always like giddy to watch one of their videos or anything. They're not like a favorite creator of mine in that regard. But it's still good stuff, and I'm just happy that I'm happy they're in this space. And that they're sticking with it. I remember them coming off of Treesicle, and having that first initial coming in. I felt kind of skeptical of them. And I may have mentioned this before in another digest talking about their videos or something. That I felt kind of skeptical of them coming into this space, and it felt like more corporate or whatever. But it really isn't corporate, and it just feels like really modern and like additive and special. And I really, it wasn't really reflected in this video, and that's okay. It's not like it has to. But like they're very like on their sleeve of how much they really are dedicated to their own personal community, their Patreon, in ways that I don't see any other creator, including me. I think I address them, but I'm never like this is a completely different level for what I've seen. They're not just names or something, right? Which I really appreciate, and that sincerity is really great. And also they're like various things in the community. This is just a Bonsai Pop appreciation post. No, I'm going to really. I'm happy to see them. This was a good video. That's all I'm saying. I'm just gushing about them now. The Anime Man had a good video. Real versus fake anime figures. Can you spot the difference? I mean, it's not so much about like buying. It's not like a game where he's like presenting two figures of the same character and asking you to spot the difference of them. It really is more like he bought 5 anime figures and he's telling you why they're bad. Fake anime figures, more specifically, like bootleg ones. How do you tell that something is a fake anime figure or kind of a off-brand and not an official quality, like sanctioned, I guess is the word for it, anime figure? And he says he's not like a connoisseur expert, but he's bought enough to know the difference. And he's really articulate and pointed with each of these figures of like, you're never going to encounter this. If it feels like this, like he's really establishing a frame of reference for people who have never bought anime. I've never bought anime, so I had no idea. Like things that he's pointing out, I would have taken as just like, yeah, I'm a lot more lenient on those sorts of things. But he's pointing these little details out, and he's like, this is garbage. It really elevates your standards. And he's like, no, you should put, and I really like the point he makes at the end where he's like, if you're going to buy figures, put the work in. Find the particular figure that's good for your budget, of course. I think he does a great job of like, it's like, but they're not because that's the main argument people have and why they buy these figures. is because of the price. But the best point that he made was showing off the Hatsune Miku figure that's like a million times better than the fake one that he bought, and it's $15, right? And it was just like, wow, it really gets you that, it really convinces you of the argument. It's very persuasive in that way. No, I just think he did a great job with this. I think it's still like a fun video throughout because he's like really riffing on these figures, and the editing is obviously very comedically appropriate. I think Mudan, or I have to look. I should probably cite my shit. Let's find out. It was, yeah, Mudan. Yeah. I think it was like very complimentary in its comedic tone, but not like trying to riff every joke every 5 seconds. But it was just it felt very educational, and just like informative, and I really liked it. And I watched it like I wouldn't say go so far as to say I watched it twice, but I did. Like I watched it before Digest. Like I've explained this 100 times, but like the way I do Digest, that it works better for me is that I watch all the videos at once and then review it like as is. So I just watched all of these a couple minutes ago, like an hour or so ago, but not this one. I actually clicked on this video out of pure interest, because I was like, that's interesting, and I wasn't even watching for Digest, and I was like, that's awesome, and at least that's a sign for me as a great video, because like a lot of these Digest, like the videos are a lot out of, I watched them out of obligation for Digest, because yeah, that just is, I can't tell you what it is, but there is this threshold, and people who did guest Digest could probably corroborate with this, where it's actually kind of difficult to like get yourself to watch the videos, right, and then to talk about them, right. It's not too easy, but like this was one of the few videos I was like, I want to watch this video, not even out of like just doing Digest. Like I do want to watch this because it's interesting and informative, and it was as informative as I was expecting. So that was excellent. A plus, perhaps. Pretty good. And you know what? I wanted to give the last spot to Scamboli Reviews. I was really happy. I came away really happy with this video. When Sword Art was the best anime ever. I hate Sword Art Online. I'm not, and I wasn't. It wasn't even like because YouTube told me to. I remember watching it on Netflix after like I think like a year after it came out or so. I wasn't watching it weekly with some other people, which is really the time frame that I think Scamboli is referring to, is like when it was first coming out. But like I remember watching it and I hated it. Like I just did not like, didn't like the first arc. The way the direction it went, basically, because it had that like promise and the thing he was describing of like how visceral and authentic it felt. It's true. I did feel that for the first episode, and I think a lot of people could probably attest that too. Although like you point out little holes of it. I really, oh my god, I loved the the one moment there where he was like he's really towing this great line between, yes, it's shit, but actually like but it's actually like, but why did we like it then? Why else did we like it then? And then there's this point where he's referring to like the cheater and he's a beater. He's like, yeah, beater. Like Kirito's like, yeah, beater, I like that. And Scamboli's like, that sounds so lame. It's not possible. Like I love that it's not possible. What, a beater? That sounds so lame. It's not possible. I love that. I cracked up with that. And I rewound to think that was excellent. And I just really like this, like, kind of like, he wasn't even trying to make this grander point or anything. It's just this like, hey, what happened? And like, isn't that weird how we loved this thing so much right at the time, and then we were like, oh no, it's not good. And then he had this really salient, I can't say the specifics, where it's like, we see ourselves, we were innocent at the time, where it was like, we were younger, literally, we were just like, all of it, like, I can remember impatiently waiting for the school bell to ring to get out of school so I can turn on the PS3 and hear that noise, or hear that and Sword Art was really scratching that itch for him. It has the same appeal, and I'm like, I kind of feel that, because I was like a junior or senior in high school when it was coming out, and I remember the first time hearing about it was one of my theater friends was like, hey, this is a new show, Sword Art Online, where the guy gets trapped in the game and he has to fight his way out. He has 2 swords. It's whoa. And I'm like, oh wow. And then he's like, and then his girlfriend gets stuck in the game. Like, they get out. I think he's stuck in the game, so he has to go back in. And I'm like, whoa, you know? And this video was like reminding me of, and I was like, yeah, you're not crazy. I remember that. Like, we were like shocked about that, and we take it for granted now. And I think he just landed it, this really interesting idea. And it's really an amorphous idea. It's not like a generic anime review, or not again, I was praising several anime reviews earlier in this digest. Not to like shit on a general review, but like what he was making before, it didn't feel additive to me. And I think that was what was weird about it, and or just like kind of negatively skewed and kind of shitting on anime in general. But this one was like really balanced, acknowledging the crap. And like when I'm talking about positively skewed content, I'm never talking about erasing bad, like criticizing the show. Right, you can like be completely honest about it, and it's like it's not great, no. But like, if you make the video about how not good it is, it's not fun for me, right? It's not like, what do you get out of it, right? But like I really like that this was like kind of a turning of negative into a positive, especially the research. Not like it's not like research, right? It's like, oh. Yeah, like, I'm about to tell you what it is, and they're like, really, Shaves? You're gonna just say that's research? Like, okay. But look, dude, it's better than what some of these other guys do, especially a lot of the guys who were shitting on SAO, which he acknowledges with like Mother's Basement. It's funny that Scamboli doesn't mention Beatrice's SAO stuff. Maybe because initially it was because it's just a gameplay video, and there's actually he couldn't actually source the video very, or oh, you know what it is? It's because Drixie privated it. I bet that's why he just couldn't find it. So it's just all Jeff and some other random people kind of shitting on SAO. I really like that he acknowledges Ricky Kawahara. I think that's his name, Ricky Kawahara, and like talking about where he made it. And he's like, no, he made this in 2001 on a whim. He wrote that he wrote Aincrad like in a couple weeks or so, like, and it got disqualified and all this other stuff, and that was very additive information. And to his audience, that is very big and impressionable. It's a kind of a normie audience, to be honest. Like, I'm sorry, it's a bit of a normie. Like, it's kind of for how big your audience is, it naturally you're going to be attracting a lot more normies to this because it's kind of a niche thing, right? For someone of your size, yes, you kind of have some general normie people, and so like making this video, you're presenting this very valuable information in this context, right? I think the context was super valuable. I just really liked this. It also just wasn't too long. It was like 11 minutes, like bada bing, and it was funny, and yeah, it was great. Great job. Like, yes, dude, let's fucking go. Yeah, and that'll do it for this installment of AniTube Digest. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you to my patrons, which like I usually name here. A little short of an hour. Let's fucking go. You guys have a good week. Yo, peace.